Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video I will talk about one of the best attractions in Quebec, a must-do adventure for all Quebecers and even Ontarians. I'm talking of course about Le Petit Train du Nord. Le Petit Train du Nord is actually a 200 kilometers bike path, not opening to any motor traffic, and actually has nothing to do with a train, an actual train. So this bike path cuts through the wilderness of the Laurentian Mountains in Quebec, offering beautiful views of mountains, lakes, and rivers, picturesque villages, and many other attractions along the way. What makes this attraction so special, and I dare say unique, is the combination of beautiful nature with a relatively flat bike path accessible to most bike levels, even kids. Paved for large parts, and the parts which are not paved have a very friendly gravel surface to them, which is quite accessible for most bikes. This was possible because this bike path is built over a decommissioned old train line, hence the name Le Petit Train du Nord, that was built in the early 1900s to bring people to the mountains. This is why it is separated from the motor vehicle roads, and as a bonus, the old train stations are repurposed in restaurants or cafes along the way, or simply host facilities to change, souvenir shops, or to go to the toilet, or to fend off bad weather. The bike path is quite safe and very versatile. You can do it by yourself to get in touch with your inner thoughts and recharge, like I did. You can do it with your partner, or you can do it with friends, or even better, you can do it with the entire family. Your kids will love it. If you think about it, it has everything in it. It has adventure, it has nature and fresh air. There are no cars or motor vehicles, so it's very safe. It's fairly flat and friendly surface to roll on. You can use your own bike or you can rent. You can even use electrical bikes to make it easier. And there are shuttles between different stops, and you can even have your luggage dropped off at your lodge. So all in all, it's quite well developed and quite nice. I'm quite excited to share you this adventure, and I will do it. I will do so in two videos. This one is a bit shorter, where I will go over the basic logistics of this trail and where you should go to start planning. I will do a brief description of the different segments, including some different suggested scenarios to consider, and lastly, a few safety and gear pointers. The second video, with the link in the description below, is a kilometer by kilometer description of all 200 kilometers, including additional useful information about where to stay and how to prepare your gear based on my own experience and my own video footage. Hope you like and subscribe. But now let's go back to this video. The first part, basic logistics of the bikeway. Le Petit Train du Nord, also called Le Parc Petit Train du Nord, is a 200-kilometer bike path through the Laurentian Mountains, stretching from the town of Mont-Laurier all the way to Saint-Jérôme, a small town about 65 kilometers, or just under an hour drive from Montreal. As the name suggests, it's a linear park, i.e. it's not a loop, which means that either you do it both ways, which is actually not recommended, or you use the service of the private bus Autobus Petit Train du Nord. Link in the description. And this bus will take you one of the ways. Their services are quite comprehensive actually. They can take you, your bike, and additional gear and luggage, and drop it to various stops along the way. They can even carry your luggage from lodging to lodging so that you don't have to carry it on the bike if you prefer. So really you have a lot of options, as I'm going to explain below. Also, it is strongly recommended to bike from Mont-Laurier towards Saint-Jérôme, as there is a slightly down average incline, so it's a little bit easier. So the plan is usually to take the bus from Saint-Jérôme, and you can go either all the way up to Mont-Laurier and come down, or you can do only some segments depending on your time, your fitness, and your interest, etc. I will talk a little later about different scenarios possible. The question in the logistics part still remains: how do you get to Saint-Jérôme? Saint-Jérôme is a little town serviced by a train 7 days a week, and it also allows bikes on the train. And the train station, the real train, is only a few minutes walk from the where the Petit Train du Nord bus picks you up. However, the trains in Canada are not that frequent like the ones in Europe, and also the Petit Train du Nord bus goes only once a day. So it is difficult to time the two, or it might require an extra night or two in Saint-Jérôme. So the second alternative is you can come with your own car. There's a very large parking lot in Saint-Jérôme that costs only $6 a day or even free during weekends. If you come by air, best would be to rent bikes and rent a car and drive it to Saint-Jérôme. The logistics of the trains will probably waste too much time. The second part is scenarios and different segments. The bikeway can be divided neatly into four relatively equal segments of about 50 kilometers each with its own flavor. The first one is from Mont-Laurier to Nominic, roughly 55 kilometers. It's very wild. There's very limited intersections with roads or villages. There are no shops or restaurants along the way, or at least not obvious ones. It is solitude at its purest. Also, it is a little bit of a slope up, not too much, and you'll be happy later when you come down. In Nominic, one can restock and eat at some nice restaurants, and also there are a lot of nice opportunities for lodging along the lake, which is very beautiful. The second segment is from Nominic to Mont Tremblant village. This transitions slowly to civilization. It rides along the Nominic lake and rides along the Rivière Rouge, which is very beautiful. It passes two municipalities of Rivière Rouge and La Belle. The nature is really breathtaking. But the last part, there are some detours. This is something temporary, so maybe when you will go, they're not going to be there. But this is a reminder to look at detours before you plan your trip. The third segment from Mont Tremblant village to Saint-Agathe-des-Monts, my pronunciations are not great. Apologize for that. So the third segment from Mont Tremblant village to Saint-Agathe is back to civilization. The bikeway is beautiful and still completely separated from the road, but it goes through several towns and villages, and each of them have nice stops and nice shops, restaurants, and playing areas for kids. Also, the opportunity to rent bikes are much more frequent. That is, if you want to do just parts and not the entire thing. This segment starts with one of the best parts of the trip along the beautiful Lake Tremblant, and the village itself is very nice. It passes through Saint-Jovite station, a beautiful place to take a break and eat something good. And you should stop because the next part of this segment is going to be a bit uphill. The part from Saint-Jovite and Domaine Roger near Mont Blanc is challenging. It's the steepest along the way. But there are many benches and tables and places to take a break, including Domaine Lauzon that has a market and even a restaurant. Once you get to Domaine Roger near Mont Blanc, you're home free. From here to Saint-Jérôme is nearly all slightly downhill. Not much, but enough to not feel like you're doing much work. Actually, it's very pleasant. To be fair, the downhill starts about 3 kilometers after Domaine Roger, but it's a close enough approximation. Although it is downhill, the part between Domaine Roger and Saint-Agathe is one of the least exciting. First, as you can see from the map, it runs along the highway. It is completely separated still, but it's close enough to the highway to hear the cars. And because it is a highway and the cars go pretty fast, it will be noisy and the air is not so great. Saint-Agathe is halfway the last segment, so from Saint-Agathe to Saint-Jérôme are about 50 kilometers. So this is the last segment that we're going to talk about. But this part from Saint-Agathe to Saint-Jérôme is absolutely breathtaking. The views of the lakes and the path running a lot along the Red River are extraordinary. And the path also goes through some of the best villages in the Laurentians. Val-David, Mont-Roland, Saint-Adèle, and several others with a lot of attractions around the old train stations, making it a delight to bike from one to the other. It really was the peak of the trip, and the fact that it goes downhill makes it seem very easy. The only slight downside is that this section is gravel, but it is still very well maintained and friendly for most bikes and tires. So if you go with kids, this is definitely the segment to go. Finally, The very last part of this last segment passes a national park and after goes a bit through the town of San Jerome before arriving in the big plaza in San Jerome to the metaphorical finish line. After this short description, if you want to do it all, it will be a hoot and a half. You can do it in 2 days like I did. You can check my other video for more detail as well as an in-depth description. It's a bit intense, but it was worth it. If you have time, you can do it in 3 or 4 days. 50 kilometers a day is really very doable. I will add some details here in the safety and gear sections. If you go with young enough kids, probably 25 kilometers a day is a good limit. So I would do only some sections. Otherwise, it's going to take you about 8 days. But if you do the last from Santa Gat to San Jerome, this is 2 days. It's a perfect weekend. It's fantastic. If you do decide to do only a few sections, the first one, Mont Laurier to Nominic, is great if you want to be alone in the nature with your thoughts. And conversely, if you like to be close to civilizations, restaurants, other attractions, the part from Mont Tremblant village, Saint-Jovite and Mont Blanc is great, and as well as the from Santa Gat to Saint Jerome. If you're already lodged at Mont Tremblant, this segment between Mont Tremblant and Mont Blanc is the best option. But if you come from Montreal and a bit in a hurry, the segment Santa Gat to Saint Jerome was the best, with dramatic, breathtaking views and many villages, great food and other attractions. With kids, I would probably recommend the segment with a night stop to keep the 25 to 25 kilometers a day. This can be done as a weekend outing, as I said before. Important to note is that you can always rent a hybrid electric bike that will make your life very easy. I'm not sure how long the battery will last if you aim at biking 5 to 6 hours a day, but I saw many people, some elderly people, making very good progress on hybrid electric bikes. Finally, last but not least, safety and gear. Myself, I'm not really very fit. So my wife asked me, how did I manage to do it? And especially in 2 days where I had to bike 100 kilometers a day. In fact, I did 90 the first day and 110 the second day. The trick really is in the ergonomics and the gear. With a decent bike, not necessarily expensive, mine cost about $350 in 2009. And now I see similar ones for about $650. Inflation, eh? Once you bike and you find your rhythm, you can easily sustain a constant speed for around an hour. In the beginning, in the morning, I could do 2 hours even, but once I got tired, I was aiming at 1 hour between breaks. And if the path was a little uphill, I needed sometimes to reduce to 30 minutes even. The trickiest part is to be able to stay in the saddle for an hour, so everybody's thinking about the actual muscles of the leg and aerobic exercise, but sitting on the saddle for an hour and having the hands on the handle for an hour, it's kind of tricky. So I found that while my legs were fine, actually, my hands, arms, and butt were often more problematic. In fact, as I did not wear gloves, my hands felt a little weird for about a week after I come back. They're completely fine now, but they're a little bit tingly for a few days after. Also, my arms were quite sore as well, so less the legs actually. Along these lines, you should not wear a backpack. It's actually very important. A camelback may be an exception, but a backpack while biking for a long time will give you huge neck pains. That will spoil your trip. So again, to enjoy the trip really, it's very important to look at the ergonomics because you're going to be biking for many, many hours at a time. Also, a good quality bike that can turn accurately the gears and small enough but sturdy tires will help you maintain a reasonable speed. The tires, if they're too big, they're going to increase the effort you have to put. If they're too small, there's a risk of puncture, especially in some areas. And you're not really very close to any place to change them. My average was around 17 kilometers per hour. My goal was 18, but I was not able to achieve it. But 17 was quite reasonable as well. I took an average of 10 to 15 minutes break every hour, with more extended break for lunch. Before you embark in this adventure, do some practice runs for 10 to 20K to see how it feels, and especially with the kids to see how the dynamics goes. And third will help you better, and this will help you better plan the trip. The quality of the bike also plays a role in the safety in terms of reliability, not only ergonomics. The path has extended segments that are not covered by civilization, let's say, so if you have a breakdown, this can be a problem. This is addressed to some extent by adding from time to time some places with tools and air pumps. And also there are volunteers that patrol the area, but the tools and pump and even the volunteer cannot help if you experience a catastrophic damage to your bike. So your bike should be in pretty good shape. I suggest that you bring your bike and gear to a mechanic before the trip and tell him that what you plan to do, and he will tell you if it's safe or not. Otherwise, it is best to rent. It is actually not too expensive if the rented bike is not electric. Another very interesting thing is that you can use your CA card. It now supports also bikes, but you still need to get to a road, and especially in the first half, there are sometimes kilometers between you see a road. Also, the basic CA will give you only 5 kilometers, which is basically nothing in this trip. So you should probably, it's worth the money buying the more expensive one that can get to up to 160 kilometers. Obviously, make sure you have lights and appropriate clothing. In the mountain, there are often sudden changes in the weather, rain or cold. Both days I went, I checked the weather and I was not supposed to rain at all. But both days we had showers, some severe ones. During the second day, the temperature fell quite a bit that I had to wear a heavy sweater for much of the day, despite the fact that it was end of July. Also, make sure you have enough food and water with you to be comfortable and enjoy, even if something unexpected pops up. So I'll finish here this video, but if you want more detail, you can watch the longer version focused on my own trip. I hope the information was useful. I hope you like it, and please subscribe to watch more videos to come. See you later.